the fight, yeah, bring on all the lightning. 'Cause I'm looking for a hero, look inside the mirror. I find one, oh, carry the hurt when it gets too hard.
Hey, welcome to this episode of Inspired. I'm your host, Tequila Sean, and I am here just enjoying my time and laughing with my girl, Jennifer Glass. I mean, we're gonna talk about some pretty serious stuff here, but I'm just excited to have Jen on today. She's a very dear friend of mine, and when we're together, laughter is not too far. Laughter, tears, maybe a little shouting, saying, getting it together.
Finger snaps.
Finger snaps. But I'm honored to have you here, Jennifer Glass, who is, again, just a wonderful friend of mine and has a really amazing story, a really powerful story. And I know one of the things that I love about you is I think you are learning for sure, but I don't think you fully realize the power of who you are and the story that you have and the amazing woman that you are. I've gotten the opportunity to know you a little over a year now, and it's been a journey, and I've seen such growth in you, and I'm just honored to have you here on this platform because there's so much in you. Welcome to the show, Jen.
Well, thank you so much.
So, girl, let's talk about your story. Let's talk about your story. We're gonna talk about some things that have gone on in your life that have helped shape you and guide you, and let's hear it.
Well, I wish that my journey to being a better person had started a little bit earlier in life. But I grew up kind of in a dysfunctional, chaotic family and environment. There was neglect and sometimes abuse, and my parents are amazing. I love them both. They did the best they could with what they had, right. And that's all that we can do. Yeah. And my mom was absolutely my best friend, but my life kind of cycled through relationships and toxicity and self-destruction. And my mom, as amazing as she was, unconditional love was almost her downfall as a mother, because she was an incredibly enabling woman. And how she did that for my brother was different, and for me was different, and for others was different. But for me, it was everyone else is the problem, not you. This person's just hurtful, you're amazing, you're wonderful, you're perfect, you're, awesome, and you just keep picking bad people to be friends with, and,
so there's never any accountability for your own actions.
Ever. Yeah. And I'll always be here to pick you up when you fall. You can always come home to mom and I will help you fix it. Yeah. Right? So no consequences, no accountability. And, at the age of 30, my life is in chaos and disarray and destruction again. And as if that wasn't hard enough, it was around that same time that my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 glioblastoma multiforme, which is almost 100% fatal. I mean, it's just not something that most people survive. And without delving too deeply into the overwhelming pain that caused, because I may have not been a great person, but I loved my mama. I mean, she was my only soft place to fall. I was a new mother. My daughter was 2 years old. My marriage with her father was falling apart, and things were just incredibly difficult. And now, in addition to all of that, I find out that my mom is gonna die. And I don't know how to exist in a world without my mom. And it's interesting looking back. There was a situation where we were having dinner together, right after a conversation with her doctor, finding out that it was for sure terminal. And I'm crying over my endless shrimp at Red Lobster.
Of course you are.
Yeah. And all I could think about is what's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
And thinking back on that, I'm sitting across from the woman who gave me life and who just found out that she's going to die. But I was concerned about me. And if that is not an ugly, rude awakening, I don't know what is. Oh, I do. What came next? Right? So I spent 11 months trying to help my mom and being there to take care of her. And there was an instance in the hospital after she woke up from brain surgery, and she was so confused, and she was mostly blind. And I was the only one there with her that night, and she just couldn't sleep. She just kept crying and whimpering and talking in garbled speech. And I finally had to crawl in bed with my mom and put my arms around her and just comfort her and tell her it was going to be okay. And it was the most profound moment, realizing that at that point, my mom was already gone to an extent. And we had changed roles almost, as if I was the mother and she was the child. And I'm still a new mother who feels like I'm just this kid playing dress up in her mom's high heels and clothes 10 sizes too big. You know, I'm still looking around for an adultier adult. But that just wasn't going to be the case anymore. So
what did that moment do for you when you had that realization? How, was it scary?
It was terrifying.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I really felt like I needed to be more than I was, but I had no idea how. And I really didn't know how I would survive actually losing her.
Yeah. So when you got to this moment, let's talk about the path that's happened. Your mom, Lord, she's with the Lord.
Yes.
You know, I like to look at things that way. We don't negate from mourning and grief and passing, but those of us that are believers, we have a hope. And
yes.
So it makes me think of a scripture that says we have this great cloud of witnesses, and that's where your mom is cheering you on. Let's talk about what that's looked like with mom no longer here physically, you being a young single mother, you having been enabled. In your own words, mom just set you up good.
She did. She was awesome.
Setting you up. And what did that look like? What did that look like with you having the realization that I really have to step into this role myself. I really have to adult up, but I also no longer have my mom here for that advice or for that encouragement, and what was to come after that?
I think it's one of those things, kind of like grief, where there were stages. You know, in the beginning, there was, I have to get through the funeral, and I had to give a eulogy for over 100 people and not cry. And I'm trying to, like, for the first time in my life, control my emotions. First time ever. And then I'm criticized because I'm too stoic. You know, and so then learning, like, well, how can I be authentic with what I'm feeling, but also take on this role of matriarch? Because I still have to get stuff done, right? And I think that that's, in and of itself, a challenge that every mother faces.
Yeah.
Women don't get a break.
Yeah.
We don't get time to grieve. We don't get to take a break. And even as an enabled child and adult, I still had my own life and responsibilities. I still had this daughter. And now I'm stepping into my mother's roles and taking that on and feeling like I just got shoved into the deep end with no clue how to swim. And so even in the beginning, there's this moment of, okay, I have to find a way to get things done even though I feel like I can't go on. And not only do I feel like I can't go on and I still have to do things, but I have to rise to a level that I have never functioned at before.
Yeah.
And there were times when I just shut down. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I just could not deal with what was going on. And that looked like hiding in the covers and just blocking out the world.
I was going to say, do you feel like that in itself triggers to isolation, depression?
Oh, yeah.
Feelings of being overwhelmed and anxiety. You said something so profound, though. You said you finding that level of authenticity, being authentic. How do I become authentic to what I'm feeling. Like, it's almost like those two words, do they belong in a sentence together? Because in today's society, we're taught that they don't.
Right.
As women, like you said, we don't get a break. We just endure and we're going through. You know, so what? If you're going through, you just hold your head high. You don't let people see you cry. You don't let
Right.
people see you sweat. You just look good and you just do it all. You are a superwoman. And you said, how do I become authentic to what I'm feeling? And then you later on, you just said, I had to learn to rise up to the level, to rise to the occasion. And I think that is so profound in you beginning to realize, I need to heal through this. This is how I
Right.
heal through this, those two things right there. What are some of the things that you yourself have found you've begin to, what helps you to heal?
For me, it's talking. No shock there. I'm a verbal processor, so the more I talk about things, the better. A lot of times I won't know what I'm feeling or thinking until it's left my mouth. You've experienced that, where something comes tumbling
in my head,
out of my mouth.
I know that so well.
And I'm like, where did that come from? Sometimes I'll feel like God spoke something through me, and I'm like, rude. I did not give you permission to speak through me. Thank you very much. But so talking definitely, and really pulling things apart, because I've learned in that process that if I don't deal with it out loud, if I don't deal with it consciously, then I get physically ill. I will struggle with IBS or migraines or insomnia, dreams. I'll have very vivid dreams of my mom, and it's my body cueing me, hey, you need to deal with this. There's some stuff going on right now that you're not acknowledging.
Yeah. If you don't deal with it, you will internalize it and it'll make you physically sick.
Absolutely.
And you've learned to recognize those traits, but how many of us are not dealing with things and are internalizing it, and it is literally physically and spiritually making us sick. We're gonna take a commercial break and we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about that some more, okay? All right. We'll be right back.
Bringing out the fight, yeah, bring on all the lightning, 'cause
Hi, I'm Jen Glass, and I own Jen's Pet Sitting. We board animals and come to your house and watch your pets. It is myself and 2 others. We've been working with animals for about 15 years, and we just love spending our days cuddled up with your fur baby so that they feel safe and loved while you're gone. You can find us on Facebook, Jen's Pet Sitting. I do offer grooming at Beaufort Dog also. I'm there about 3 times a week. And I am also the owner of Coastal Creative, a small retail business. We closed down because of COVID, and we're opening back up next week at Glow Country Mini Golf. I do refinished furniture. You can find antiques, unique things that you won't find anywhere else, stuff to decorate your house, and jewelry for your kids, and fun little items that are just a quick grab and go for a gift, including Blind Date with a Book, which is a beautiful book wrapped up so you can't see what it is. We have a bunch, they're beautiful. You get an idea of the genre and they make a really great gift. Either way, it's a blind date with a book and you're never gonna be disappointed.
bringing out the fight, yeah, bring on all the lightning, 'cause
Hey, welcome back. I am joined with my guest, Jennifer Glass, and we've been talking about dealing with grief and how that impacts and affects one's life. Jen has shared with us the loss of her mother, growing up, your childhood, what your mother meant to you, and how she positively, and I don't want to use the word negatively, how she positively, but positioned you in a manner that you have had to learn to grow through. And you know, it makes me think of a scripture. The Bible says that all things work together for our good. So even though this may have set you up and positioned you in a sense, it was purposeful. There's purpose in it. Before the break, we talked about, you said something so powerful as to your emotions. When you lost your mom, you had to, you arrived to this place where you had to learn to begin to be authentic with your feelings and your emotions. And I just thought that was such a well put together statement. And I want to talk about that and revisit that and go a little deeper into the process that you had to learn to do that, how you had to recognize that this was your pivotal point, a very pivotal point for you in your growth. And let's talk about that.
Well, there's a lot to unpack, but when you find yourself in a situation where you have a lot of responsibilities, but you're dealing with a lot of grief, I think as women, or at least I can speak for myself, you kind of compartmentalize. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for grief. I don't have time to feel. I knew the day of my mom's funeral, if I started to cry, I would not be able to perform. And I don't mean put on an act, but do my duties.
Right.
I had to be able to stand up there and deliver a eulogy to a room full of people who are also hurting and really didn't come to see me cry. And then deal with the backlash and the criticism, even being accused of being on drugs because I was so stoic. And I kind of felt like, what do you want from me? Like, I can either fall apart or I can get stuff done, but I can't do both, you know? And I certainly can't live my life to please whoever it is that's my audience at the time, which was family and friends.
Well,
And
let's talk about that real quick. So so you're feeling that I'm here to show up and I'm here to perform when really in reality, this is your mom. You in every way, shape, and form should have felt that it is okay to show emotion. It is okay to cry.
Yeah.
It is okay to break down. It is okay to not be putting my proper, poised, perfect self before all of the people. And that was a pivotal point for you. It's almost like waves crash into the shore, one element meeting the other and having to figure out which is going to take over.
so here's the problem with being authentic. You have to know who you are. And in order to know who you are, you have to be able to be honest with yourself. I was alive for 30 years and had never taken a look in the mirror. Not really. So it was like I was being called forth into this situation and role that I wasn't prepared for because I didn't know how to be authentic. I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
I had this idea in my head that I was this great person because that's who my mom always told me I was, and everybody else is the problem. But then there's this sobering moment where you take a look at your life and your safety net is gone. My safety net is gone. There is not another human being on the earth that loved me unconditionally at that point, except for my daughter.
Yeah.
Right? So I take a look at my life and I'm like, my life injured me. And now the life I'm living in front of my daughter is going to injure her in the same way. So I have two choices. I can either continue on this path and have her end up where I am or worse, or I can do one of my favorite step in the 12-step program in AA and stuff like that. I've read some of the books because it's really good information.
Yeah.
Take a fearless searching inventory of oneself.
Fearless. I love that word.
Fearless and
Fearless.
searching, like you've got to go digging.
That's the
So
book.
I decided in that span, that time frame, I'm not going to live my life for these people. I'm not going to compartmentalize. I'm not going to go on like a drone just because I'm a woman and that's what is expected. And I have got to take ownership of where my life is at. My life is in shambles and my safety net is gone. Who am I? Who am I really? And it was in that journey that I was able to work through the grief, because I'm having this like crisis of who I am, and I've lost my mom, and there's all these things, and it creates this perfect storm.
Yeah.
And again, you have two choices. You can just buckle under the weight,
Yeah.
or you can rise.
Yeah.
And I may have been broken in a lot of ways, but God did not make me to sit down and admit defeat, not one little bit.
No. Yeah.
So, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I worked through the grief by,
That's literally what I was about to ask you. So
I did
the work,
yoga in the mornings and at night because I couldn't sleep. My heart was still broken. I mean, I was focused on myself in a sense of wanting to be greater, be someone that made my mother proud, be a good mother, be a good woman, friend, employee, spouse. things I had never been before.
And you're in essence really truly having to learn all on your own because
Right.
mom, that safety net is no longer
Right.
here. You talk about your daughter, your beautiful baby. You talk about recognizing that I can either continue to do things the way that I've been taught, or I can begin to hold up that mirror and take accountability. And I can recognize that I don't want to turn this mirror around and let my daughter look in it and follow the same path.
Right.
That was the beginning of doing the work.
Right.
Tell me about that journey.
So it started with little things, like I said, yoga in the morning at night, so that I could just function, right? And then I realized I needed to retrain my brain. I needed information that I didn't have.
Okay.
So I started ordering books, audiobooks about psychology, about health, about growth mindset versus, being stuck. Books about not being a victim.
Yeah.
And I realized I had spent my whole life believing I was a victim, but I was the villain. Walking around with a victim mentality, hurting other people because hurting people hurt people.
Say it again.
And hurting people hurt people.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's funny when you are able to be honest with yourself, the amount of grace that you have for others and the things that they've done for you, the mercy that comes with that.
Yeah.
So I listened to things, TED Talks, books, anything I could get my hands on, I just consumed it to retrain my brain. And as the mindset shifted, I was able to take responsibility for things without hating myself, without beating myself up, without that self-hatred, because there were a lot of regrets.
Yeah.
But I learned to take the pain of losing my mom and turn it into the purpose of my life. Like, I lost her.
Yeah.
But God has used that pain. Like you said in the beginning, He uses all things. They all work together for our good. All things, all things, all things. All things means all things. Even that.
Yep.
And it became the greatest source of pain in my life, became the launching pad for the greatest change and the purpose in my life. Because in that journey, not only have I become a better person, a better friend, a better mom, I have met incredible women that I wouldn't have met had I not been on this searching journey, trying to surround myself with people who were where I wanted to be or knew things that I didn't know and I wanted to know. And then God's put women in my path who I've been able to help and pour into and teach. And it's not that I've arrived where I want to be, because I haven't. I constantly have to reevaluate that fearless searching inventory and make adjustments. I'm still dealing with grief. This was only 3 years ago. I still get sick out of nowhere and realize
There is no time limit on grief. There's no time frame. And you never know when it's going to pop in the room.
Commercial on TV, and all of a sudden I'm crying in the middle of a restaurant, and I'm like, why?
A smell, a memory. You one of the things that I love about you, Jen, is the first time I met you, we connected when we were going to do the women's empowerment event, and we connected there a couple of years ago. And you come into my salon, and before the first phone call we started talking, but you come in and you just start spilling everything, and I was like, this girl is so authentic. You did not know me from Jane next door and Joe down the street, but you were just authentic about who you were, and you shared so much. And to me, I was like, you don't meet people like this every day. But what I took from you was you were unapologetic about your flaws.
That's right.
You knew, and I say this respectfully, you knew the mess that needed to be cleaned up, the work that needed to be done, and you were trying to figure out how to do the work. You made no excuses for this is who I am or this is why I am. You knew exactly that, and you shared it so openly. And I thought, God will use this woman so powerfully. This girl is going places. And little did I know the connection that he had for you and I, but you make such a powerful impact when you speak and when you share, and transparency. Lanita says it all the time. She says, transparency is the new superpower.
Yeah.
We're taught to hide that. We're taught not to be authentic with our emotions. And it is platforms like this and women like you that are willing to share their story for women that are sitting, watching, and listening right now to go, okay, I am not the only one that is going through. I'm not crazy. I am not the only one going through this. And it is okay to give voice to my story, even if it's only to myself.
Yeah.
Even if it's only admitting to myself that I am broken and I need to heal. And that's exactly what we're talking about here is I don't think we ever fully get to healed. It is healing through the hurt.
Yep.
And that's what you're doing. And I just appreciate you being here on the platform. Give us a quick takeaway. What would you share with women?
I think that being honest about your flaws and looking at your struggles and personality and character flaws in the face and being honest and working on them is the place where you find your purpose. It's in that authenticity that you have something to give to the world. And the last thing I'll say, I say it all the time, is never, ever, ever compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel.
That's it.
Because we are all dealing with something.
That's it.
Social media is not the whole story.
It's not the whole story. Thank you so much for being here, girl.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Join us next week. Want more inspiration and encouragement? Join me next week, Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Live, and hear more extraordinary women sharing their extraordinary stories. And be inspired with Takia LaShawn. This episode of Inspired with Takia LaShawn has been sponsored by The Brow Company, Beauty Bar, Makeup Studio, and Lash Spa, a Takia LaShawn salon. The Brow Company specializes in exceptional lash, brow, and makeup artistry, natural nail care, full body and Brazilian waxing, laser liposuction, teeth whitening, hair shampoo and blow-dry styling, and more. The Brow Company has 2 locations in Bluffton, South Carolina, and on Ladies Island, and are open by appointment Monday through Saturday. Find out more and book your appointment today. Have a business, idea, nonprofit, organization, or event you'd like to talk about? Contact me today to find out more about my sponsor and affiliate partner program segments here on Inspired with Takia LaShawn. There's something wrong with you, Takia. You're not worthy of our time and our attention or our affection and our love. And this began to just set the stage for who I thought I was, who I thought I should be, which in essence was nothing and no one. Rejection turned into isolation. I became very secluded. I did not have the best of relationships, even as I matured from my youth into my adulthood.
Pick it up, dust it off.